Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 34 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210. Tell them that's CDP, aka Chris Palme, sent you there as well. And also, guys, you can now pre-order the all-electric Cadillac Lyriq or the all-electric Silverado as well. And if you want to test drive a Cadillac Lyriq, just give them a call again at the number I said, 519-824-0210, or info@barrycullen.com to book a test drive of the Cadillac Lyriq as well. Guys, also Live with CDP Sports Talk is now on 4 nights a week on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, the heartbeat of Atlanta, Southern talk in sports. So tune into my podcast show Monday through Thursday at 8 to 9 o'clock, again on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Metro Atlanta. And I want to say thank you to Ryan O'Neill for giving me an opportunity as well with putting my show on his radio station. Anyways, guys, I'm looking forward to my show tonight. His name is Andrew Wood. He's a third-year student in communications at the University of Waterloo, and he's also doing some internship work with Rogers TV in the Kitchener studio as well. So I look forward to speaking to Andrew, and I'm going to bring him on right now. Good evening, Andrew. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself, Chris? How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. This is my 254th episode since I started this show 3 years ago.
No way. Hitting the big 254. Congratulations, buddy. That's amazing. So happy for you.
Thank you. No, and I really appreciate you coming on. We were supposed to connect a couple months ago, but with your schooling, and then I got busy. But hey, we got it done.
Yeah, what do you know? Life happened. But hey, you know what? Better late than never, I always say.
Yes, and this episode will air on WQEE 99.1 FM in Atlanta as well at some point as well. All my shows are downloaded audio-wise and then sent to them, and then they air them Monday to Thursday from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night. So that's is what I always wanted, my own radio show on a radio station. So.
I know. I remember back when we first met, you talked to me about the fact that you really wanted a radio show. And it was funny as well, because it was actually at Rogers where I heard someone mention your name. And I was like, wait a minute, I know that name. I totally do. And I searched you up on LinkedIn, and then I found out you actually got your own radio show that you wanted. That's instantly why I was so proud of you. I decided to reach out to you, and that's really what got the ball rolling. So I'm happy somebody at Rogers mentioned you, and I'm just happy to be here. Once again, thank you. And hello to everybody from Atlanta. That's super cool that it's going to the States and possibly other places, and people that are listening. That's so wonderful. I'm so proud of you, Chris.
Thank you. I still have a lot to learn and accomplish, and it's just it's a start. It's a start, and I just have to keep doing it. And a lot of guys your age, girls your age, they've been great with me. They haven't judged me like, hey, this guy's 50 years old, doesn't have the broadcasting degree. Everybody in your industry has been great with me, and I've been able to work with people your age or people that are my age or even older as well.
Nonsense. That's absolutely ridiculous if people would judge you. Like, in the end of the day, you're human. We're capable of doing things that we don't really need a degree to pursue our dreams or anything like that. So I find the fact, if anybody has insulted you, I find that completely ridiculous. I think no matter who you are, you can achieve what you want. You just got to put in the effort, you know?
Absolutely. And one thing I've learned about this industry too, you do get your successes, but you also get your rejections, and you always need to stay humble and hungry in this industry. You can never get complacent, and also don't take rejection personally. Just use it as motivation to keep improving and to show people that they're wrong about you.
Yeah, exactly. I think that same way as well. If people think negatively of you, of course, use part of that to learn, obviously, but also
Yep.
don't let it get you down completely because yeah, you're able to grow, adapt, and I mean, come on, Chris. If you like 4 or 5 months ago talk to you now, like I feel like past you would be so impressed with everything you've done, and who knows, maybe 4 months from now you'll be impressed with future you as well. So you just gotta keep on working, keep on trying your best, and even through the rejections, you'll get successes, and the more you try, yeah, the more you try, the more you'll grow. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I think it's just a beautiful thing what a determined mind can do.
Yeah, well said. And like I said, I just take one show at a time. And hey, a guest is a guest really makes a great podcast. I'm just a host, so I've been really lucky to get a lot of great guests on from the states and Canada, and then yourself as well. And I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
you coming on. So, hey, first question I want to ask you, Andrew, for my
Yeah.
audience here in Guelph and also on WQEE 99.1 FM in Atlanta, plug for the station. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So, my name's Andrew Wood. I'm currently a third year communication studies major at the University of Waterloo. I did originally go in for biology, but even though I did very well in terms of marks, after doing a co op in a lab, I realized that wasn't the path I really wanted to pursue. So, I went for communication studies, and I hope one day to be a host in a television show. But for right now, I'm just trying to get my foot in the door, and I feel my internship I have currently at Rogers TV is a fantastic opportunity and really helping me get that foot past the doorway. And also, I sometimes work as a cashier at PetSmart. I've been doing that for 4 years as well, and I really enjoy that job as well. It's something that I bring into my conversations a lot just because working with pets is really, really fun. So I guess that's a little bit of a bio about myself.
And also, you're working with people there as well. And the one thing I've learned about this industry too, even though I want to be in radio and not TV specifically, it's
Yeah,
good to learn all aspects of both. That's what I'm trying to do with the radio and the TV side as well.
that's good. Yes, they're heavily interconnected, really. And I feel the same way about, being in front of the camera and also being at the back of the camera. I mean, in reality, the more you learn about all aspects about this industry, the better you'll become because you'll realize if you want to make this demand, but it's too difficult for the people in the back, it just gives you that sense of empathy. And in the end of the day, makes you more likable. The last thing you want to do is come off as very arrogant to the people around you. Just doesn't really make a that doesn't really make you someone who's good to work with or really good to be around. It makes you less likely. I know I'm putting everything in terms of a job, but really, if you're not likable, it makes you less likely to be hired, no matter how good you are. So, yeah,
Absolutely. And one thing too, also, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I was going to
no,
say,
don't worry.
in
I
in
was pretty
a
much finished with that thought.
okay, anything in a TV or radio production is really a team effort. Even if you're not on air talent on TV or radio, they still need the graphics guys, they still need the audio guys, they still need the producers. So the on-air talent is only as good as the guys behind the scenes.
I agree. When I was a kid and I watched breakfast television, I thought somebody typed everything in, they pressed a button, and it just automatically went. I was 5, of course, but now that I worked on Rogers, I'm actually working on new shows. Wow, there's a lot that goes into it, whether it's live or pre-recorded. There is always just it's like a Starbucks almost. There is just a team of people scrambling to get everything right. It's especially hockey games too. I oversaw a hockey game being done, and it just reminded me of cooks in the kitchen. There was people constantly talking to each other, saying, "Okay, do this. Okay, I got this. Now, is this done? Yes, it is." People going on the switchboards and even little control pads and just turning wheels, pushing levers. It looked like how cartoons portray a science lab almost. It was almost magical because you really get to see that sense of camaraderie and that passion for the game as well.
Absolutely. The next question I had to ask you, Andrew, is what has your experience been like at the University of Waterloo in your third year in communications so far?
Well, I can't really say I speak for everybody because, as you know, there was a little thing in 2020 kind of caused us to warp ahead 2 years. A little weird, yeah, COVID. So my experience was essentially it was odd because in the first year of COVID, nothing really changed for me. I was in biology. I worked in a lab working with COVID, and so because it was a COVID related lab, we got full immunities to the work at home warnings. We still had to wear masks, of course, but when it came to people continually having to work from home or people continually getting laid off, I wasn't included in that crowd at all. Life was normal for me, but it's when I did switch to communications when I did have online school and also online jobs. And it was definitely quite the experience because I got to learn, yeah, this is how it would be working in a solitary environment. And I did learn one thing about myself. I definitely don't want to go into an online job. I am somebody who loves talking to people. I'm somebody who loves seeing people. And just being alone and having to learn everything by myself, not really have anybody to collaborate with, it was not my style. I still found the content really interesting. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything about the program being bad, not even close. It's just different because when you're in communications, you kind of expect to, I don't know, communicate with other people. But starting with like late last year, we actually did have in-person classes. And honestly, it's been absolutely fantastic. I found that the professors are much more, oh, I can't say much more intelligent, definitely not, but they have a lot more empathy towards students, I feel. In biology, I felt like it was, teach your lesson and then, yeah, you'll understand, you'll get through it. But with communication studies, I really found like it's a lot more of a collaborative process. And if one person doesn't understand a certain topic, you're not shy to say it. And then the teacher essentially has everybody help you understand that concept. And I really appreciate that a lot. It gives the classes a whole sense of community, which I really appreciate. On top of that, with communication studies, there's a lot of digital arts courses. And I must say, I'm really liking those in terms of, I found out that I'm really talented at sound editing. And so I've finally got to learn video editing at Rogers, and I've been trying to make a YouTube video as well. I'm not trying to get YouTube famous or big off of it, just for practice, seeing how I like it. So overall, I feel like communication studies at UW has been really nice. I felt like I've learned a lot. I've met a lot of great people. And in general, it made me really learn what communication studies is. And there's that old stereotype of, oh, what are you going to learn math for unless you're going to be a math teacher? No, I feel like a lot of aspects of that I've learned in communication studies would relate to everyday life.
Yeah. As much as I like doing this podcast and it got me through the pandemic, I totally agree because now I'm doing live in-person interviews and I'm going to sporting events again. So as much as I love doing the podcast, it's nice to be out in person again with other people.
Oh, so
And
much better, I'm sure.
like you mentioned, and also I'm hoping one day I'll be working in a radio station studio as well. As much as I like doing the radio show remotely from home, it would be nice to be in a studio as well.
Oh yeah, being in the studio with other hosts and especially at games, the energy there must be at 11, and it must just be
Yes.
exhilarating meeting not only players but fans as well.
Yeah, and coaches, and I meet young people
Yeah.
that are starting in broadcasting, such as yourself, and I connect with them, and it's been a great experience, and I think I've learned to appreciate things more after the pandemic because when things were taken away from you, I think you learn in the long run to appreciate more. And like I said, the only good thing about the pandemic is that show. So this did get me through the pandemic.
I mean, I'm happy that you did have an outlet to get you through the pandemic, but I agree. The grass is greener on the other side. I really learned that, especially since I was working in a lab that was, working in a lab as if I was a normal full-time employee. And then I got that all stripped away, and then PetSmart laid me off because they had to. Wow, I realized that, family and video games and my dog could only get me so far.
Or
I realized, wow,
absolutely.
I really need more of that social connection.
Yeah, Andrew, what I wanted to ask you now is, did you have a mentor? And you obviously mentioned why you decided to take the communications course at Waterloo, but did you have any mentor or mentors starting up in broadcasting?
Mentor or mentor starting up in broadcasting? That's a great question because ultimately broadcasting has only been a recent goal, but I will say my he works as my supervisor currently at Rogers. His name is Robert. You may know him, but overall, I feel
Yeah.
like he's been a fantastic influence for me. Not only do we really just get along as people, I felt like we've really meshed together really quickly, but I also really respect his amount of professionalism and also his ability to be an authority figure because I feel like I can identify my strengths and weaknesses, and one thing I don't think I'm that great at yet, at least, is being a leader. I feel like I get too distracted by other things around me, and I also feel like I focus way too much on making friends with the people who are supposed to be my subordinates, that I either just come off as somebody who doesn't really take the rules seriously, or I just worry too much about them liking me, and I just second guess myself on, should I say something about this? But I feel like Robert has really struck a great balance between telling me, okay, time to focus, or okay, you know what to do, you know how to do this task, and also just being good friends, just being able to talk about whatever. So I feel like so far he's absolutely been a great mentor. Another person I feel who's been a fantastic influence, not necessarily in broadcasting, but he was one of my professors at University of Waterloo. His name is Matt. He taught my course on giving public speeches, and he was wonderful. I originally took this course because I thought, oh, it's gonna be easy. I could talk. Like, I could talk loud. I could project. I could do all that. But no, he taught me a lot of the intricacies of public speaking and really how to communicate verbally and be taken seriously and convey the tone correctly. And just in general, he was just such a sweet man, and he was always willing to help students. Like, when I found out that I struggled in giving giving descriptive speeches that are not anecdotal, as in that I found out that whenever I give speeches, I always speak in dialogue almost, like I'm giving a play. But when I had to use expressive words, I'm like, wow, I really can't think of this. I really don't know how to write like this. He was also a great help in that, on top of just being a very sweet guy in general. So I'd say so far those are the two mentor type figures I've had that come to mind.
I think that's great. And this leads to my next question, Andrew. Just tell my audience how important volunteering and your internship has been in terms of your development so far.
Oh my gosh, it's been pretty huge. My supervisor and I kind of have an inside joke where they say, "Oh yeah, you get paid in experience." That's not a joke. I found that even though I don't get paid traditionally, the experience from, well, essentially the tasks that I do ramp up in, difficulty and also involvement very quickly. I started at Rogers in January. By the time it was the third week, my supervisor was saying, "Okay, Andrew, I'm going to send you out on this shot by yourself with another intern. How do you feel about that?" And it's wild because I thought, wow, I feel pretty thoroughly trained already because consistently he's been giving me new things to do. It started with, "Oh yeah, let's sign into your accounts. Let's get your email all authenticated." And I thought, "Oh yeah, first week, it's going to be easy." No. By the second day, he was saying, "Okay, yeah, you could operate the camera. I'll show you white balancing. I'll show you what all the switches do and everything, how to hook up the mics, and you're going to be shooting this interview and also B-roll." And then by the next week, I was editing things fully, and I was helping with editing the show. And now I feel like I have a very involved role in producing the show. And it's only been a little bit of time. I feel like I've learned, well, my one other supervisor put it best. It's like I got 1 year of college for broadcasting truncated in a month. It's been wild. And even though the lack of pay may sound really discouraging or that, oh, I'm not really doing real work, no, you gotta get through it in order to reach the high highs that you want to do. And really, if you're passionate enough about it, I feel like you will really enjoy the activities that you do. And in addition, I feel like this is just my thoughts on co-op in general, because I took co-op with school. It's so important because it's able to make you gauge if you want to do what you're studying as a full-time career or not. Again, me, biology. If it wasn't for the fact that I had co-op and I didn't get a job in a lab, I may still be trying to go into sciences and I may still be miserable because what a shock. That program is really, really difficult. But because I took it, I realized very quickly that yes, this isn't the environment for me. The program's great. The job was amazing, but I just don't think this is for me. And so I was able to reassess what I liked and didn't like about that co-op and do a little bit of research and determine, also based off my own interests, what do I really want to do with my life?
Well, I was in another career with a corporate company for 23 and a half years. I was
Yeah.
paid well, benefits, pension, but I was miserable. And the last couple of years, I've been working on a new career, and people don't realize this. I might not be going to school for broadcasting journalism, and I'm not against it, by the way. My situation's different than everyone else's.
That's fair.
But
That's completely fair.
anytime you start a new career and learn new skills, everybody looks at the money aspect. Don't get me wrong, the money aspect is important, but when you start a new career like yourself or what I'm trying to do, you got to pay your dues. You have to get experience, and I've had to go out and get my own experience and own opportunities. Unfortunately, I've had some rejections from local stations in the Gulf area, but I'm not letting the no stop me. And like you said, anytime you start a new career, not just broadcasting, you have to make some sacrifices. And one of them is, okay, financially, I'm not doing as well as I was a year ago or 2 years ago, but I'm a lot happier. And this is something I have a passion for.
Yeah, I feel like happiness is incredibly important when getting a job because let's face it, the reality of Canada is that a lot of our lives are going to be work. It may not be it may not be for the best, but that's what we have
Yep.
now. You're going to be spending likely 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. That's 40 hours out of your week. That's essentially 5 full days
Yep.
working. And so, if the vast majority of our human experience is going to be doing a task, then you better enjoy that task because even if you make good money, you could only buy so much artificial or temporary joy until you just feel numb to it. So, I feel really just doing what you love is an actually really sustainable way to be happy and constantly growing and learning and just becoming better than your former self. I feel that's truly the way to build, truly the way to be happy with your job and just make it last.
Absolutely. And now, Andrew, I'm going to ask you this question. Can you tell my audience a little bit about your role on your region this week and behind the scenes of a TV production and thoughts on working with an Andy Carol Woolery as well, who's the host for that
Oh
show?
my gosh, and Nandy's so cool, but I'm gonna spoiler alert, she's really awesome. But let me tell you about your region this week first. So, what your region this week is a news program that airs weekly, Fridays at 7 p.m. on Rogers Cable 20, or you could also stream it online at Rogers' website. That essentially goes over events and other happenings in the KW, Cambridge, Guelph, Brantford, Stratford area. And essentially what I do is that I help out with general production. I go on news sites, I communicate with the actual PR teams to see, yeah, when can we make this story happen? What can we ask about? That sort of thing. Admittedly, I'm not as big of a part of that role as Robert is, but I'm trying my best to help out. But the brunt of what I do is helping out with the actual filming aspect of it. Sometimes I make the interview questions. We take all of the equipment to the actual site. Oh, excuse me. And then we interview the actual people. We shoot B-roll footage, which for those of you who don't know what B-roll footage is that whenever you're showing a clip of somebody talking, you don't want to just show them talking for a long time because that'll grow stale. What you do is that you film other types of footage and then put it over that person talking. So you hear that person talking, but you see footage relating to it. Like if somebody's talking about a highway, then you may see footage of cars on that highway. And then I help film that. Then we go back to the studio. I usually edit quite a few stories together, including putting the graphics on, implementing that B-roll footage, creating transitions, making sure the audio is all proper. And then every single Thursday, which has become pretty notorious to my mom because that's my late day, I usually get in at 12 and then I leave from a range of 9 p.m. to sometimes 1 a.m. That's when we edit everything together because every single show of Your Region This Week consists of multiple segments and one story is one segment. So we put those all together. We send them out to Master Control for them to air, which, since we deliver the full episode on a Thursday, we deliver it a day in advance. And then we wash, rinse, repeat for next week. And so being involved with a television production like this, it's very different from everything I expect because when you actually work on it, it really does feel like a project of passion and love. When you watch a normal TV show, you don't really notice things like graphics, like lower thirds or bumps, or really B-roll being edited on it. But then when you're the one who's actually filming and putting everything together, you think, yeah, that's my shot. They're using my shot. Or, yeah, I made that graphic. Well, actually, I don't make the graphics. Robert does. He's very, very good at that. But that's not important. Either way, the point I'm trying to make is that it really does feel like you're crafting everything and you're telling a story. It's a story that's so subtle that not a lot of people would really notice it, but it's as simple as, say, you're talking about a highway again, and then you're mentioning this specific ramp. Well, you show a video clip of that specific ramp. It's just being used to make the story more intuitive to everybody. Make them know, oh, yeah, okay, I understand what that is. So, yeah, I feel it's really is like an art form. You really you create the pieces of everything, you stitch it together, and it's truly a product that you call your own. And thoughts with working with Anandi. Oh, sorry. That's the next question, isn't it?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. I'll wait. Go ahead.
My apologies for that unprofessional outburst because Anandi is so cool. Oh my gosh. Like meeting her in person and then actually seeing her report, it's insane because she's so professional and she sounds she sounds like a news anchor, but you have to understand, it's really different seeing someone on TV sound like a news anchor and then meeting that person in real life and hearing them sound like a news anchor. It feels very surreal. It almost feels like when you're just watching on TV, you think, oh, it's effects. There's auto adjust, but no, that's their voice. They're able to enunciate that and they're able to say even the most complicated words and the most convoluted stories pitch perfect. I admire her skill so much. I think it's absolutely inspiring. And while I don't work with her super often, pretty much only on Thursdays, she is still definitely an inspiration to me.
One thing I wanted to ask you as well, your segments on Your Region This Week, how long is each story segment? Like about 10, 12 minutes?
Not quite. An entire episode is, an entire episode is 24 minutes. Each segment runs from about lowest 3 minutes, highest, I say 5.5 minutes. They're not super long, but we usually focus on, the quantity of stories because who would have thought there's actually a lot of things happening in the region this week rather than just having a few long stories, because in reality, we want to report on everything we can. We don't really want to pick favorites or anything like that. We if there's an event happening, we usually don't say, no, sorry, we don't have time to cover that. No, we try our best to cover all of our bases with events.
Okay, definitely. And yeah, and Andy is my co-host on the Small Talk podcast. We do a show once a month, and I have to get used to a co-host because I'm used to doing everything single. But when you do have a co-host, you have to learn to work as a team and do everything. It's a little bit different than doing a solo show like
Yeah.
this.
It's a balancing act. I mean, you have to worry about how you both are perceived now. You have to worry about making sure you both get an even amount of talking points. You have to be sure the topics are both suited enough for both of you that you can both actually have a very good discussion on it, because there's nothing worse than a podcast or a discussion video where one person knows everything that they're talking about while the other person knows nothing. So it's like, what's the point of having the other person there? The
Yeah.
point of it is having that fun banter, having the fun interactions,
Yep.
possibly different opinions. That's fun to listen to. But
Yeah.
either way, I respect you trying to expand your field and going with a duo podcast.
Yeah, and I've had to create and make my own opportunities. And like I said, Griff Vision, they actually paid me, and I got to do some camera work with them, and they showed me how to do replay, graphics, and even direct a game. And I was nervous as hell, but the thing is, the only way you get better as a human being is to test yourself out of your comfort zone, and that's the only way. And then you find out what you really truly like and what you don't like. But it's better to try every aspect of the industry. And the word I'm looking at is try to be a jack of all trades.
Yes, I completely agree. And I'll also add to that point. I feel the most important aspect of learning, which a lot of people scrutinize, but I don't really think is fair to, is making mistakes. That's just the reality of it. Look, if you're
Absolutely.
trying something new, you're going to screw up. You're possibly going to make a mistake more than once, maybe twice, 3 times.
Yep.
It may take you a little while. For example, when I remember that first shoot that I mentioned that I went on 3 weeks in, messed it up completely. Oh man. Not only did I make the camera too dark and it was a very dimly lit area, so a lot of the B-roll footage wasn't really that usable, but I managed to get lucky and well, no, I shouldn't say that. The thing is that my supervisor and I prepared a lav mic to use, but for some reason, don't ask me why, we decided to use the stick mic, and I managed to get the pack with the broken stick mic. And so because of that, I wasn't sure if the audio was going to work, and sure enough, it didn't. We couldn't salvage anything from the interview, which, is the bulk of the entire story. I felt absolutely terrible that day. I'm not going to lie. I felt like I completely failed. I second guessed myself. Is this really the industry for me? Can I even do this? But then my supervisor, Robert, said, look, I get why you feel bad, but in the end of the day, you're going to make mistakes. That's just the nature of it. You're not going to be perfect, but that's okay. You're going to learn. You're going to learn from this. You're going to grow from it. It's not a huge deal. And I just had to accept that, because it's difficult when you mess something up that you think is, oh, this is my first impression, I got to be perfect. You don't often have to be perfect, as long as you try your best, and as long as you just have to learn from your mistakes. There's nothing worse than receiving criticism and then automatically dismissing it. Like, yeah, right, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. No, you should consider those mistakes and then try to think about changes to your approach if it was a little bit messy, because that's essentially how you grow as a human being. And sure enough, that's what I did. I may have not gotten it right on my first shoot. I may have not gotten it right on my second shoot as well. It was significantly better, but not perfect. But then I recently did a story in Stratford about the digging ceremony for a new tennis structure that's going over the courts, and it was perfect. The audio was great. The lighting was great. Everything was great. I got enough B-roll, and let me tell you, I felt so good about that. It may not come immediately, but this isn't a TV show. This isn't the main character trying something new and then getting it right in the first try just because they're a prodigy. That's not how it works. You're going to make mistakes, but in the end of the day, accept the fact that you're going to make mistakes and accept the fact that you're going to need to learn a few new tricks.
Well said. And I've made
Thank you.
mistakes on my podcast show too as well. And the only way you get better is learn. And anyone that says they're perfect and they don't make mistakes, they're full of, you know what?
They're probably a liar.
Yeah, pretty well. Yeah, definitely. And that's another thing I wanted to talk to you about briefly before we wrap this up is how important
Okay.
audio, even though you're not doing the radio side of broadcasting right now, the TV side, audio is so huge as well for the TV side.
Oh yeah. I mean, in the end of the day, good audio can save bad visuals, but good visuals can't save bad audio. That's how we're going to that is our main way of communicating our thoughts. What are you going to do about that? Like, if somebody's having a really engaging conversation, but it's from a podcast that just started, maybe it has a thumbnail that looks a little weak because they're just not the best graphic designers. Well, then that's okay. You're still having a very passionate and heartfelt discussion. But if you spend a huge budget on professional artists to make your logo and you have all the advertising in the world, if your show is bad, well, then people aren't going to listen, no matter how pretty it looks. That you just have to, we just have to be sure that you really are clear, because people, if you can't understand what somebody else is saying, then what's the point of listening to them?
Absolutely. Have you worked with Jeff Ketty yet at the
Jeff
studio
Ketty
in
yet?
Kitchener?
I
Yeah,
haven't specifically worked with him, just a bit, but I have met him several times and I have talked to him several times, of course. We're both very
really
talkative
good guy.
people, so it just works out.
Yeah. Yeah, really good guy, and he's showing me stuff as well, and he's been
That's
patient
great.
with me, and that's what you need. You don't need somebody yelling at you if you make a mistake or whatever. He takes the time and shows you, and then you learn, and that's the best way of doing things.
I agree. I really can't understand supervisors that feel the need to yell at the people just trying to do the best they can or just trying to do a job. Because what is that really going to accomplish? You're making yourself feel frustrated and miserable, and you're taking out your anger on some innocent person, and you're just making that person feel terrible about themselves too. Well, in the end of the day, the way to make if you want to make this world a better place, you just have to pass on the kindness. You have to treat everybody with a sense of dignity and respect. And especially somebody that's working for you, just because they're getting paid doesn't mean that they're not trying their best or they don't deserve to be treated as a human. No, everybody should be treated with kindness. And I'm so fortunate to have Robert, because it always worries me. What if I have a supervisor who is completely frustrated with me and yells at me for making mistakes because I suppose they
I've had
just
those. I've had those. Unfortunately, I've had them,
I'm so sorry
and
for you.
yeah, no, I know. I'm not alone. A lot of other people have. I don't mention
I
who it
know.
is or which company it is, but I know what that's like, and it's just not acceptable nowadays. And and like I said, the key word I've learned from this profession is even if you're not a friend or best friends with somebody, you still have to be professional. And that's a big thing in
Yes.
media. I want people to know that you can have I have a good reputation, a rapport with my guests, and also I want people to. I had one guest tell me from LA the other day, I
Yeah.
came on your show, Chris, only because you're a professional. And I really I said thank you, and it really meant a lot to me for him saying that to me.
That's a huge deal. I can't imagine people who are I feel this happens on talk shows a lot as well, where you just have somebody, talking to you and then they just say a completely offhanded comment either about yourself or maybe even somebody else that you're friends with, and it just makes you feel uncomfortable. It's completely inappropriate. It makes you never want to go on that show ever again, and for good reason. If you're not going to treat them with kindness, then what's the point?
Yep,
You shouldn't be spending time with them.
absolutely. And one thing I've not wanted or appreciated, you always go where you're going to grow as a person and to learn, and also where you're appreciated as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Finally,
And that's
last question I wanted to ask you, Andrew.
yes,
Can you
yes.
tell? Sorry, go ahead.
No, no,
No,
no. I
sometimes the
wasn't going to
Wi-Fi
say anything.
unfortunately cuts out. So
It's the
no, it's
nature of
okay. No,
internet.
it's okay. And like I said, I'm still a work in progress too. By the way, I by no means am I like 100% polished. I'm still kind of a diamond in the rough. Still working on my edge, working on stuff to improve as well.
No matter where you are
Okay,
in life,
finally,
we still have something to improve. But now, please go on.
absolutely. And the final question I wanted to ask you, Andrew, is can you tell my audience again where they can find you on social media if you're on social media? And when does your region this week normally air on Rogers TV 20 out of the Kitchener studio?
Well, I'm not active on any social media channels right now,
Okay.
unfortunately. But in
Okay.
terms of your
Okay.
region this week, if you want to watch it, it's on Rogers TV Cable 20 on 7 p.m.s on Friday. But if you don't have cable, that's okay because you could watch it online as well. It's on the Rogers TV website and you'll be able to live stream it when it comes out. And in addition, if you miss a show, that's okay as well because not only are these segments premiering on YouTube, but they're also on our site as well. So no matter what, I feel you can watch it, and I really enjoy this show. I think Anandi does a great job hosting. I feel we do a great job of. Well, okay, that's just sounding egotistical, but I feel like there are some nice quality interviews. And if you really just want to learn about what's happening locally around from a very local source, then I highly recommend you tune into your region this week.
Okay, definitely. And Andrew, I apologize for keeping you over 30 minutes, but I really appreciate you coming on season 5, episode 34 of Live with CDP Sports Talk. And like I said, I am also branching out from the sports talk. I love sports, but I'm also doing podcast shows like what we are doing tonight or with Andy as well, where we do local businesses or local individuals once a month as well.
No, not a problem with the over 30 minutes thing. I've enjoyed every single minute of this. I was personally hoping it would go a little over time, but so I'm glad that I got my wish. But thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate this opportunity. And again, I just want to say I'm so proud of you and I'm excited to see you grow even bigger.
Well, thank you so much, and I tell the young students too. I'm not against schooling by any means. It's just my situation is a little different, and everybody's been really supportive. And this show is live streamed on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And if you can give me a little bit of time today, because I have another podcast show coming up at 8 o'clock with Brian Snow, who's from my station WQEE at night at 8 o'clock Eastern. I will download this show to audio platforms, and also I will send you a copy of our show as well. But you speak really well, and I learned some stuff tonight, and that's what I love about this podcast show is it's storytelling. I love hearing stories from my guests, sharing my stories, and learning new things from my guests.
Exactly. I feel like when you do a show like this, you realize that no matter who a person is, no matter what their age is, no matter anything about them, you're always able to learn something.
Absolutely. So again, I want to say thank you so much, Andrew, for coming on live with CDP Sports Talk, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph and on WQEE 99.1 FM, the key in Atlanta. And we'll definitely keep in touch with you on email, and we'll
Yes,
definitely
please.
send you a copy of this podcast from my YouTube channel and also my audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, etc. I'm on like 19 platforms now.
Oh my gosh, I'm so impressed with you, man. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And to all the listeners at home, I hope you have a wonderful night.
You too, Andrew. Thank you so much, and we'll keep in touch, okay?
Yes, we will. Take care, Chris.
You too. Talk to you later, Andrew. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed season 5, episode 34 of Live with CDP Sports Talk with my guest tonight, Andrew Wood, who's a third year student at the University of Waterloo in their communications uh, in their communications program, and also he's an intern with Rogers TV out of the Kitchener studio, and he does work behind the scenes of Your Region This Week with an Andy Carroll Willery as well. Before we wrap up this podcast show, guys, I have another show at 8 o'clock Eastern with Brian Snow from the Brian Snow Show, and also WQE 99.1 FM, The Key. The Brian Snow Show's on weeknights from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock as well. So I'm looking forward to speaking to Brian Snow in a few minutes as well. Before we wrap up this show, guys, I was at the Buffalo Bandits game against the Colorado Mammoths Saturday night at the KeyBank Center in Buffalo as a media member, and I was able to speak to John Tavares, Chris Cloutier, and Chase Frazier from the Bandits after in the post-game media call. And I'm going to show you guys a clip of the post-game show with head coach and lacrosse legend John Tavares.
You told me at the beginning of the year, after 13 games, for League 10th, I'd be really happy. I'd take that any day. So we're still in a good position. We just got to move forward and look for mistakes.
Coach, you got off to a good start, 4-1 to close out the first period. How much did the penalties affect you guys going into the duration of the game?
Well, that moment in time, it helped them tremendously. Got them back in the game, ended the lead, and then went back and forth for a couple quarters. And unfortunately, we took some penalties there, some questionable ones, and this seemed to take away the flow of the game. I thought it was just too many easy penalties being called in the first half.
One word to describe your team's performance.
One word?
Yes.
One word to describe my team's performance tonight?
Yes, sir. Pardon?
I would say that the guys got hard. I'd say we had pretty good effort. We just fell short.
Second half, John, they just seemed like they took the energy out of the building and kept everything quiet, which works to your detriment because when you guys are going and the crowd's going, that's obviously a big event.
Definitely. The disappointing part of the game is when I saw people starting to leave in about 3-4 minutes. That doesn't happen very often in Buffalo, and when you see that happen in your own arena, it's definitely it's not encouraging. So I felt that, and it was kind of felt like brought up last June. It just kind of were deflated, and they're just gaining momentum as the game progressed. And I felt that in the second half.
How do you think Chase did in his return?
I did really well. Looked good. He played on his feet, strong, and he got a couple goals for us. And he moved well. He obviously hasn't played in a year, so he's still a bit rusty.
Sorry.
Coach, what adjustments were you comfortable with into the second half?
Well, whatever we did didn't work offensively, so we didn't adjust properly. But we tried to shoot more on the run and carry the ball over the top, and to no avail. Unfortunately, we missed the net or dropped passes. We just were not in sync for whatever reason.
So what's to learn from this year?
Well, we need to be sharper. Sometimes you can make adjustments and it just doesn't happen. And the adjustments were to get the ball low and carry over the top and put pressure on their defense. And it seemed like it was the opposite effect. So what's to learn is you got to do the little things right. And which I thought we did. We battled hard, and sometimes when you battle, it's just not good enough. That team there is a very gritty team, and they fought tooth and nail the entire game. And I got to give kudos to my guys. I know the score was a difference of 5. But it was a closer game than it was.
Coach, did you like how your team responded to the physical aspects of tonight's game?
Well, it's nice when guys stick up for each other for sure. And I thought that they're a physical team, and it was nice seeing guys stand up for themselves or stand up for teammates. Which like Steve Perello did a great job, and McCauley fought somebody too. I thought that we had some big hits, like Dane was hitting guys, Josh hit guys. I thought the guys stood up for themselves and for their teammates, and that's what's expected of our team.
And did you guys work on you guys had a short-handed goal tonight. You guys working on that in practice this week?
We don't spend a lot of time on that. It's very difficult to score 4 on 5 when it's a settled situation. Most short-handed goals are scored in transition. So I'm not going to spend amples of time in practice. We don't practice very often. So we dropped little plays that we've run over and over again. That specific play was just guys Buchanan cutting. I'd love to take credit as a coach, but that's just him cutting, being smart, great pass, great call. Yeah.
Coach, this is more of a compliment. You've done a great job with this organization. You've done a great job with this team, and you guys fought really hard with this team. You guys, we thought we were going to win, but surprise was on their side, and then we had a great game.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I thought 13-8 guys are disappointed. Coaching staff's disappointed. But we understand that it's two tough teams playing lacrosse. It's a tough game to score sometimes. And we can you can win a game 10-9 and everything. Everything's great. Defense great. Offense is great. There's no issues. You lose a game 10-9 and everything's wrong. It just happens to be that you scored one extra goal. Today, unfortunately, it was 5, but that's very uncharacteristic of our team. By 5 goals. So I trust that the guys are going to look themselves in the mirror and not point fingers and just get better for the next game.
Right. John, San Diego sound pretty good about now walking outside?
Weather-wise, yes, but they're a very good team. So we're in tough. We have a very tough schedule, and which we don't mind. But San Diego is definitely a championship caliber team. They have one of the best offenses, if not the best offense. So we're in for a battle in San Diego. Yes, I'm looking forward to some more weather.
John, a question for you. Obviously, Colorado's the defending champion. From last year, but could there have been a tendency to maybe look at the record overall, coming in 5 and 6, maybe possibly, as there's no gimme games in this league by any means.
The only time I noticed that was I looked at the record and I was surprised that they were 5 and 6. We're not looking at the record. Oh, we're going to be 100%. That did not happen.
Okay, thanks.
So, what is the team's pregame ritual before games? Preparing for games, team's pregame ritual.
What do we do before a game? Like game day?
Yes.
Well, the way it works is we practice once a week. Unfortunately, once a week, and we make corrections from previous games, and we start preparing for the next opponent. And then game day, we have an hour practice, and we start preparing for that team as well. So that's what we do every day.
When do you guys fly out to San Diego? Do you go the night before?
We go the day before. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Coach.
It's nice seeing a lot of you people here. Just got to do it more often. It's nice to see people besides foot.
You don't want to see me because I'm 0-2 this year, so
You're the reason.
yeah.
Where do you live?
I'm from WQE actually in Atlanta, Georgia, but I'm from Ontario. I'm from Ontario, but thanks, Coach. All right, guys, that clip was courtesy of my YouTube channel, and that was with Buffalo Bandits head coach John Tavares, who is a Hall of Fame lacrosse player and the head coach of the Buffalo Bandits, who are now 10-3 on the season, and their next game is going to be this Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern at the San Diego Seals, who are 9-2. So check out the National Lacrosse League. Check out NLL.com. Or if you're interested in going to a game at Banditland at the KeyBank Center in Buffalo, check out bandits.com as well, guys. I'm going to wrap up this show, guys, because I have another show at 8 o'clock with Brian Snow. I want to say thank you to my guest, Andrew Wood, for coming on tonight. And also thank you to everybody watching this live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And if you guys can give me a couple hours tonight, I will download the audio version of this podcast show to iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Anchor FM, Amazon Music, Stitcher, etc. as well. So again, thank you to Andrew Wood for coming on. Thank you to everybody watching this live streamed and also on my audio platforms. And I hope you guys can tune into my next show, which is going to be in about 6 minutes now at 8 o'clock Eastern with Brian Snow, who's also on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Atlanta. And looking forward to talking to Brian about his career in broadcasting and media as well. And before we wrap this up, guys, I got one comment. Evan Gu, hey, Chris Pame. Thank you for watching, Evan. I really appreciate this as well. And that's about it, guys. Again, we'll see you in about 6 minutes approximately with Season 5, Episode 35 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycollin.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles. All right, guys. Again, thank you to Andrew Wood for coming on, and thank you to everybody for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports Talk. And we'll see you in a few minutes for my next show with Brian Snow at 8 o'clock. Talk to you.